Alright, our Shiur is going to start in Perek Chelek in Sanhedrin on Daf Kuf Hey Amid Beis, which is page number 1 in your source packets. So we're going to start 5 lines down in the wide lines. So from Amarav Yehuda. So Amarav Yehuda Amarav, Liolam Yasuk Adam B'Torah Mitzvah Afilu Shelo Lishma Shmitoch Shelo Lishma Ba Lishma. So a person should always toil in Torah and mitzvos, even if it's done Shelo Lishma, Shmitoch Shelo Lishma, because if you do it Lishma, Ba Lishma, you're eventually going to come to do mitzvos that are Lishma. So the Gemara now tries to bring a proof to this concept. Shebischar Arban Ushtaim Karbanush Hikr Balak Zachav Yatsi Minurus. So we know that when Balak brought his 42 karbanos to Hashem, he was doing it for the sole purpose of trying to curse the Jews. So this seems like a bad act in itself. But as we see, the Gemara says, Zachav Yatsi Minurus, that his descendant was eventually Rus, which seems to be like pretty good offspring. And we know from Rus came David Shlomo, who are the greatest kings in the history of Klal Yisrael. So we see from an act that was done for Hashem, but it had ulterior motives, it could eventually lead to something that will actually be productive and Lishma in that sense in the end. Another source that seems to put a positive spin on this topic of doing mitzvos Shelo Lishma that will eventually lead you to doing something Lishma is in Psachim, which is on the second source in your packet. It's Daf Nun Amid Beis. So it starts from the middle of the page, from the brackets. So Rava Rami. So Rava brought down a contradiction between Psukim. So Ksiv, it's written Ki Gadol Ad Shmai Chasdecha. So it says in one pasuk in Tehillim that Hashem's kindness is up until the heavens. Uksiv, and it's also written in another place in Tehillim Ki Gadol Me'al Shmai Chasdecha, that it says Hashem's kindness is beyond the heavens. So how do you resolve this contradiction? So Haketzad. So how do we fix this? So the Gemara answers, so Kan Ba'osin Lishma, Ukan Ba'osin Shelo Lishma. So the Gemara makes a chiluk between doing mitzvos Lishma and Shelo Lishma. So the Gemara explains, so Uchli Rabbi Yehuda Damar, Rabbi Yehuda Marav, so this is going like Rabbi Yehuda, so just like Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rav, so just like the quote we had in our Gemara, V'olam Yasuk Adam B'Torah Mitzvos Afal Pi Shelo Lishma, Shmitoch Shelo Lishma Ba Lishma. So the Gemara uses the same exact concept to explain this distinction. So even though it gives a distinction between doing mitzvos lishma and lo lishma, it still says that doing lo lishma can eventually lead you to doing something positive. In this case, lishma.
Okay, so we've just seen 2 Gemaras that support learning mitzvah shelo lishma and Torah shelo lishma, because it will lead to lishma. Now let's see source number 3, the Gemara Brachos, Daf Yud Zayin. So we'll start from V'chol ha'osa. V'chol ha'osa shelo lishma, noach lo shelo nivra. Anybody who learns or does mitzvah shelo lishma, it's as if he shouldn't have been born. It's a very harsh lashon against shelo lishma, which is not like the first 2 Gemaras we have just seen. And now, if we look again at source number 4, Gemara Tainis, Daf Zayin Amud Aleph, we'll start from Tanya. Tanya, we saw in a bresa. Haya Rav Bana Omer. Rav Bana would say, Kol ha'osik b'Torah lishma. Anybody who learns Torah lishma, Torasa nasita lo sam chayim. It becomes like a great life to him. Shenamar, as it says in the pasuk, Eitz chayim hi lamachazikim ba. It's a tree of life that we can cling on to it. V'omer, another pasuk, Refuas tihi l'sharecha. The Torah can be like a cure to us, or a medicine. V'omer, and another pasuk, Ki moti matzah chayim. Anybody who finds it finds life. So these 3 pasukim show that learning Lishma is great and it's a source of life. But Rabbana would also say, people who learn Torah, not Lishma, nasida lo sama maves. It's poison. It's poison for the person. Shenamar, as it says in the pasuk, Yarov kimatar lechi. Hashem sends down His teaching in like rain. The ein arifa ela hariga, and the word arifa is a lashon of hereg. How do we know that? Shenamar varufa sham esa egla banachal. Like from the lashon of egla rufa, the lashon of aruf is hereg. So this Gemara basically says that learning lishma is like a medicine, a cure, life, and learning shelo lishma is so harsh and intense. The Gemara says it's Hashem sending down His rain, like arufa. The lashon of arufa is killing. So this Gemara says Lishma is great, Shelo Lishma is terrible. So both these Gemaras seem to be a conflict against our original 2 Gemaras. It seems to be a stira with these 4 Gemaras.
So after seeing these four Gemaras, two with a more positive approach to doing Mitzvos Lishmah, and the second with a less positive approach, so Tosfos actually addresses this question in Tainus on the same page at the Gemara we just saw. It's page 4 in the source packet. Okay, at the top, it starts off. So Kasha and Tosfos asks a question. So he quotes it from Psachim. So that's the famous statement that we saw from Rabbi Yehuda Marab, which says that doing mitzvos and learning Torah shelo lishma will eventually lead you to doing it lishma. So now Tosfos goes straight to the answer. V'yesh lomar ditrei shelo lishma have. So there are two aspects to shelo lishma. So d'madam rinan liolam yasuk b'Torah afilu shelo lishma. So what we said in Psachim and in Sanhedrin that had a more positive approach to doing mitzvah shelo lishma. So what was that addressing? So hainu klomar kadei sheyikar Rebbe o kadei sheyich. So Tosfos says in that case you're learning Torah or doing mitzvos in order that you can elevate yourself and come to the level of a rabbi or gain more honor for yourself. So that's totally self-centered and it has nothing to do with other people. However, what's the other side to this? So umasham rinan hacha, what we say over here, referring to Tainus, so that it's going to be a poison for you. So hainu mi shalomer lekanter. So Tosfos uses the one-word language of lekanter to say that over here in Tainus, which gives a negative approach to doing mitzvah shelo lishma. So we're talking about a case where somebody's doing the act of learning Torah or doing mitzvos in order to put other people down actively. So he's not doing it for his own self-elevation, as Tosfos said, as in the cases in Psachim and Sanhedrin. So rather, he's actively going out of his way to make sure that his knowledge is put above other people's in a pedantic manner. If we take a look at the Ein Mishpat Ner Mitzvah in Sanhedrin and Kafei and Beis, so it'll lead us to the Rambam and Hilchos Talmud Torah and Hilchos Tshuva. So we're first going to look at the Rambam and Hilchos Talmud Torah, which is on page 5 in the source packet. So starting from Halacha Hey. So Tchilas Dino Shel Adam, when a person is first judged at the end of his life, so Eino Nidan Ela Al Talmud. So he's only going to be judged according to what he learns in life. V'achar kach al shar ma'asav. Then afterwards, he's going to be judged according to all the mitzvos and good deeds that he does in life. Therefore, Amr Chachamim, the Chachamim emphasized, because of this greater importance of Torah than mitzvos, it seems. So Li'olam Yasuk Adam b'Torah, person should always toil in Torah, bein lishma, bein shelo lishma. Whether if it's for its own sake or for other motives, shemitoch shelo lishma, bo lishma. Because if a person does, I guess in this case, it'd be learning Torah, so if a person learns Torah shelo lishma, it'll eventually lead him to do it shelo lishma, for a higher sake. Okay, so the only interesting thing we really see about that Rambam is that he focuses more on the Torah aspect than the mitzvos aspect. So it could be that this is just because we're talking about this Rambam in a context of Hilchos Talmud Torah, so it would make sense that he would focus on learning Torah. So just to see if there are any other discrepancies that pop up in the Rambam, we're going to look at the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva, which is on page 6. So that also starts from Halacha Hey. So first he gives an overall definition of learning Torah, Lishma, and Lo Lishma. So Kol ha'osik b'Torah k'dei l'kabel sachar o k'dei shelo tagia alav paranios. So anyone who toils in Torah in order to receive reward, or in order so that he should avoid punishment, harizeh osik shelo lishma. So the Rambam defines shelo lishma as either learning with the motive of receiving reward in the world to come, or doing it to avoid punishment further on. Okay, v'chol ha'osik ba lo lira lo kabel sachar. The person toils in Torah not for fear of God, lo kabel sachar, and not to receive reward. El mipnei avas adam kol aretz shetziva ba. Rather, he does it for the sake of his love of the Master of all the earth, and that the fact that Hashem has commanded him to do the mitzvahs. So basically, that means for its own sake. So harizeh osik lo lishma. V'amru chachamim, and the chachamim emphasized. And there we see the phrase again, that the Chacham emphasized because of this greater stress on Torah than mitzvos, it seems according to the Rambam, that a person should always learn Torah, even if it's Lo Lishma. So clearly the Rambam has a different take on this topic than we saw in the Gemara. The Gemara said Torah and mitzvos. However, the Rambam is just saying that Shalol Lishma will have a beneficial outcome if it's only done by Torah, but he seems to leave out mitzvos entirely, almost on purpose.